This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather Holders. Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, June the 7th, is a former basketball legend who played for the Philadelphia 76ers and helped the Sixers do well. He was a number one overall pick. Well, he's 47 today. He played 14 years in the NBA, winning Rookie of the Year, 11-time All-Star, winning All-Star MVP, and NBA MVP, and named to the 75th anniversary team, and stepped to the Hall of Fame in 2016. So he was a legend. His name is Allen Iverson. So Allen Iverson was born to a single mother in Hampton, Virginia. So anyway, he was a decent football and basketball player in Virginia. However, there was a lot of issues. Iverson and several of his friends were involved in an altercation with other patrons at a bowling alley and all of that. Anyway, Iverson was convicted as an adult of the felony charge of maiming by mob, a rarely used Virginia statute that was designed to combat lynching. Iverson allegedly struck a woman in the head of his chair. He and three of his friends were the only people arrested. A lot of people said it was whites versus blacks and all that. Iverson said, "For me to be in bowling alley where everybody in the whole place know who I am and be cracking people outside the head of chairs and think nothing's going to happen, that's crazy. What kind of a man would I be to hit a girl in the head with a chair? Rather have him say I hit a man with a chair, not no damn woman." So he spent 4 months at a correctional facility in Newport News, Virginia. Unfortunately for him, the Virginia governor gave him clemency, and there was insufficient evidence, and the conviction was overturned in 1995. There was a documentary film, No Crossover, the trial of Allen Iverson, and there was also 30 for 30 for ESPN and all that. They wanted to make an example out of Iverson. Only defendants not given bond are capital murders. The public did play a huge role in the release of Iverson. Anyway, it was positive and all that. Fortunately, though, he got to complete his senior year of high school, and then he went to Georgetown to meet the great John Thompson and played for the Hoyas. In his first season, he was Big East Rookie of the Year and got Georgetown to the Sweet 16 when they lost to North Carolina. In his second season with Georgetown, he helped Georgetown win the Big East Championship and got to the Elite Eight, where they lost to the surprising UMass Minutemen. So anyway, he was pretty good in scoring average, but he only played 2 years for Georgetown and decided, screw it, I'm going to Dakota for the draft, becoming the first player under Coach Thompson to leave Georgetown early for the NBA. I mean, like, honestly. But, fortunately, though, Allen Iverson was so big that the Sixers decided to spend the number one overall pick on him. And he did it. He was 6 foot tall, the shortest first overall pick ever, in a league dominated by taller players. It was amazing what he could do. Ironically enough, Marcus Camby, who was part of that UMass team that beat Georgetown in the Elite Eight, went number 2 to the Raptors. Philly only won 18 games. They weren't the worst team in the NBA, but there was a provision that the Raptors and Grizzlies could not have the number one pick for first 3 seasons. So if the ping pong ball was picked of the Raptors and Grizzlies, they would have to get the number 2 pick, and then they would have to pick again. So anyway, AI would score 30 points in his debut, and he made his memorable crossover against Michael Jordan when the Bulls were good in 1996. He broke the record for most consecutive games with 40 points as a rookie. He did it in 5 straight. He was named Rookie of the Year. It wasn't even close. Worst part is that the Sixers only won 22 games that year. The Sixers kept moving forward and forward. in 1999, Iverson would sign a 6-year deal, and Iverson would help the Sixers get to the playoffs with a 28-22 mark. The number 6 seed Sixers took care of the Magic in 4 games, whereas they lost to the Pacers in 6 games in the second round. The Sixers would continue to improve, winning 49 games, getting the 5 seed, taking care of Charlotte, but Indiana again took them out for the second straight year, on their way to the NBA Finals. Iverson looked good, all that. Iverson was the only one to get an MVP vote that year that wasn't named Shaquille O'Neal. The Sixers wanted to trade Iverson because of his disagreements with Larry Brown. And they actually agreed to terms with Detroit to send AI to Detroit. But Matt Geiger didn't want to forfeit his trade kicker. So that was $5 million. So basically, Sixers were stuck with Geiger and AI. Regardless, AI helped the Sixers win 10 straight to start the season, putting up 56 wins and number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. He put up 31 points per game, second NBA title, won the steals title, and was named NBA MVP. At 6 foot and 165, he was the shortest and lightest player to win the MVP award. Iverson and the Sixers took care of their demons, the Indiana Pacers, the first round. Memorably battled Vince Carter in the second round as the Sixers and Raptors were at each other's throats, but the Raptors lost Game 7 thanks to Vince Carter's missed shot. The Sixers had to deal with Milwaukee also in 7 games. And Milwaukee almost upset them. But they got to the NBA Finals against the Lakers. And Kobe and Shaq, and who had not lost a playoff game, headed up to the final. In Game 1, Iverson put up 48 points, having the Sixers go to LA and beat the Lakers, giving the Lakers their first playoff loss of the year. In fact, he stepped over Tyronn Lue after making a critical shot. It was amazing, all that. Unfortunately, though, that was the only time the Lakers lost in the playoffs that year. They won the next 4, and Iverson did not have his title. Iverson began using a basketball sleeve because of his recovery from bursitis. And fans would adopt that as a fashion statement. People actually said that the sleeve improved Iverson's shooting ability and that it was a placebo to prevent future injuries. Regardless, the Sixers had high expectations. Unfortunately, injuries would hurt them. They only won 43 games and lost the first round to the Boston Celtics. Unfortunately, Iverson was criticized for missing practice. And that was the famous rant. We're sitting here. I'm supposed to be the franchise player. We're here talking about practice. Are you kidding me? Practice? We're talking about practice, not the game. That rant had the word practice 24 times. The Sixers were starting out poorly in 2003 because they traded Dikembe Mutombo to the Nets. The Sixers would win 48 games, get past New Orleans in the first round, but Detroit took them out. Larry Brown left the Sixers in 2003. But after Brown left, he said that he and Iverson were on good terms and fond of one another. Iverson became the co-captain of the 2004 U.S. men's basketball team that did not win gold, despite what people think, with Larry Brown. Anyway, there was some disappointment in all that. Iverson was not happy with Chris Ford, who was a disciplinarian, and the Sixers missed the full season. Iverson needed to smarten up in a sense and all that. Unfortunately, another head coach left Philly after 1 year, Jim O'Brien, and then it turned out to be Mo Cheeks. But it didn't work out. All that. Iverson was just having issues and all of that. The Sixers were stumbling on the gate in 2006. Iverson demanded a trade. All that. And Sixers chairman Ed Snyder said on ESPN, we're going to trade him. At a certain point, you have to come to grips with the fact it's not working. He wants out and we're ready to accommodate him. Iverson ended his tenure with the highest scoring average in team history and second on all-time points list behind Dr. J. So he was traded in December 2006 to Denver for Andre Miller and 2 first-round picks in the 2007 draft. So man, Denver looked good. Iverson was the NBA's number 2 leading scorer, and Carmelo was number 1. So the two of them could have gelled and done pretty well for themselves. Unfortunately, they got taken out in 5 by the Spurs in the first round. Anyway. It was hard pressed and all that. Iverson tried his best for Denver, but after a few seasons it wasn't working, so he got traded to Detroit for Chauncey Billups and Tony McDyess. Iverson had to switch as number 3 because Ben Wallace was still on the team, so he switched to number 1. Because Chauncey Billups were number 1, and he was the NBA Finals MVP in 2004. Fortunately, we lose playing time to Rodney Stuckey. And some say that, Iverson's contract was just not going to work out. Iverson had a bad back injury and all that. So in 2009, he decided to sign a contract with Memphis. But he would express his displeasure of being a bench player. He decided to leave a few games in. So he only played 3 games for the Grizzlies. Got 12.3 points off the bench. Points per game off the bench, but still, he wanted to be a starter. Kind of stupid. However, he went back to the Sixers a month later. It was amazing and all that. Well, Iverson only was pursued to come back to Philly because Lou Williams suffered a broken jaw. So he was still hot and all that. He was named a starter for the All-Star game in 2010, which was amazing. All that. Iverson left the Sixers because of the need to attend to his 4-year-old daughter Messiah's health issues with Kawasaki disease, which is a syndrome of unknown cause, results in a fever, and mainly has children under the age of 5 where blood vessels become inflamed throughout the body. After that season, he went to Besiktas in Turkey and didn't play much. He had a chance to come out of it. Okay, but after the year at Besiktas, he didn't play in a tournament on a team. But in 2013, he finally decided to retire. And all that. The Sixers said they would retire as number 3 in 2014, which they did. And he was part of the Hall of Fame class in 2016. He would help play for the 2004 Olympic team. Unfortunately, that team suffered an embarrassing loss to Puerto Rico, among other things. Iverson would play 914 games in his NBA career, 26.7 points per game, which is pretty good, with 6.2 assists, 3.7 rebounds per game. He was hot to trot, but then his last few seasons, he was just a little dismal. In the playoffs, he would play 71 games. His best chance at a title was 2001, getting to the final, but the Lakers stopped him. 29.7 points per game, 6 assists, 3.8 rebounds. 2 years for Georgetown in college. Iverson has 3 younger half-siblings. Iverson recorded a rap single called 40 Bars, but the album was making derogatory remarks about homosexuals. He decided to change the lyrics, but he never released it. Iverson did have a relationship with rapper Da Brat, but unfortunately, because of his infidelity, it didn't work out. He's now doing some cannabis stuff and all that. So yeah. Anyway, Iverson dated his high school sweetheart, married her in New Jersey. They have 5 children: Tiara, Allen Jr., Isaiah, Messiah, and Dream. And the divorce was finalized in 2013. So yeah, he's still an icon, even though he had some issues in his personal life. But when he was good, and when he was good, he was on top of the world. When he wasn't, he was just another bowler, and off court issues ruined him. He was bankrupt. He owed like $100 million to a jewelry place, allegedly. So yeah, sometimes you just don't know what to do with your money, and that's not good. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.